The RX100 Model 4 is Sony's 4th generation RX100 camera. All the previous models are still available at lower prices. The big upgrade is the new 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor, enabling a bunch of new features and functions: 4K video, super fast shutter, high-speed recording, and dual video stills recording.
The RX100 is actually tiny, weighing a mere 298 grams with battery. With the supplied wrist strap, it cradles nicely in my hand or fits in most shirt pockets. It seems to have exactly the same body as the RX100 Model 3. The Model 4 feature set is nearly identical to that found on the most expensive Sony models. I'll get to specs in a minute. Let's have a look at those new features. Although with the limitations, they're kind of demo or beta versions, not full implementations. 4K video is available at 30 and 24 frames at 160 meg data rates. 4K movies using the 3840 by 2160 TV resolution use full pixel readout without pixel binning, yielding highly accurate and detailed images. One drawback: maximum length in 4K is 5 minutes, or less depending on temperature. While recording 30-second samples of the 8 picture profiles on a sunny 20-degree day, the overheating indicator came on during the last 3. I started recording again in HD with the overheating indicator still on, but it cooled while recording, pretty much proving you can't overheat in HD. More limitations: you can't adjust monitor or viewfinder brightness in 4K, and only standard steady shot is available in 4K. This video is produced in 4K, although some scenes are HD, you'll see in the top right. Incidentally, picture profiles are new too. It's a pro feature enabled with an extensive control set, available for all video modes. We'll get back to that. The speed of the sensor's readout, which Sony calls anti-distortion shutter, eliminates the image shearing from rolling shutter that plague lower speed CMOS sensors, particularly in video. Jello effects like distorted propellers and slanted verticals are dramatically reduced. I did torture test this, and if you pan quickly enough, some distortion is still visible. The fast sensor also enables high frame rate recording, an interesting feature but with a few caveats. It has its own position on the mode dial. 4 exposure modes are available. I recommend shutter priority to freeze movement. Set the shutter, referred to here as time value in the lower right, using the dial. Start by setting the playback frame rate. 24 will provide the slowest playback. Then select quality priority, which records for just 2 seconds, or time priority 4 seconds. There are 3 record frame rates: 240, 480, and 960 frames per second, which when played back at 24 frames will slow the action to 1/10th, 1/20th, or 1/40th. However, 1/40th isn't slow enough for some actions, like this golf shot. Even though the files are saved at 1080 HD resolution, it's upscaled. At 240, pixel count is 1026 vertical, only slightly less, but at 480 it's 566, at 960 384, and that's in quality priority mode, even less in time priority. That's less quality than I'd like, but it's still a pretty amazing way to capture fast action. There are 2 capture modes. One starts recording when the movie button is pressed, the other stops when you press, capturing the 2 to 4 seconds before the press, useful for unpredictable actions. Like video mode, only continuous and manual focus are available. Use the lens ring to adjust. Press the center button to enter standby mode, and at this point, just about every action and button becomes invalid. You can't adjust exposure or focus, as indicated in the bottom right. To make adjustments, exit standby by going in and out of playback mode. Shoot the scene by pressing the video record button. It takes about 20 seconds to save a 240 rate recording, about 90 for 960. There is a cancel option. Frustrating at first, I did get the hang of it, creating some pretty impressive but silent video clips. Sony's often included dual record for video, simultaneously recording both high-res and low-res MPEGs for sharing. The new sensor enables photo capture while recording video. Press the shutter while shooting video, or use the auto capture mode offering 3 frequencies, low, standard, and high. Use the shutter button, which finally has a use while shooting video, to capture manually. There's an upper left icon to indicate that Auto Dual Record Stills is on. The manual makes it sound as if this would randomly take photos while shooting video, but I wasn't successful. Checking back with Sony, they said it's more of a video version of still smile detection. So when I asked Cal to smile, voila, it started saving images. There's no audio or video interruption in the video recording when it takes an image. Nice. It makes sense that this doesn't work if dual video is on. However, the functionality also isn't available in 4K in frame rates higher than 30, with manual focus or when picture profiles are on. That's disappointing. Oh, this doesn't work when Intelligent Active Steady Shot is on. You'll see an unavailable icon in the top left after recording starts. Speed Priority Continuous Burst is blindingly fast. 45 20 megapixel extra fine JPEGs in 3 seconds before slowing down to 2 per second. And that's using manual exposure and focus and a UHS Class 3 card. Most of the camera's functionality is disabled during the 25 or so seconds it takes to save a burst, and with the LED access lamp inside the battery door, you're left guessing when it's done. Standard burst mode takes 60 images in 11 seconds. To use autofocus and auto exposure during burst, use autofocus continuous and set the AEL with shutter to auto or off. With those settings, it takes about 106 images per minute without slowing. Okay, specs. The RX100 includes an integrated lens, which provides the 35mm equivalent of 24 to 70mm zoom, extends quickly when powered on but has no filter mounting thread. The lens ring is multifunctional, more in a minute. Closest focused is 5 centimeters. The top on-off button, shutter release with a zoom collar, a 10-position mode dial, and a slider to release the onboard flash, which tilts up usefully, but there's no flash shoe. The 1.2 million dot LCD is bright, or even brighter when using the sunny weather setting found on the setup page. There are 2 quality settings. I'm not sure I see the difference. And here's an interesting new feature for shooting in the dark. Bright monitoring, but it's only available when assigned to a custom button which toggles it on or off. There's an icon in the top center. It only works with manual focus. Useful though, particularly when shooting stars at night. The screen tilts all the way up for selfies, enabling a selfie-specific countdown, which is sometimes a useful thing. There's no grip on the front, a small thumb rest on the back next to the movie button. I did find I was often accidentally starting or stopping video recordings when I thought I was using the thumb rest. Sony sells a small optional front grip. The multifunction control dial is surrounded by 4 customizable buttons. Release the 2.3 million dot viewfinder using this switch on the left side, then pull it out and adjust the diopter. Popping up the viewfinder also turns the camera on, and pushing it back down turns the camera off unless you change this setting in the menu.
Admittedly awkward, it does make this a more useful and interesting camera, particularly because it's an electronic viewfinder that works while you're shooting video, adding great stability when you're shooting handheld. And for as good as the brightness mode is on the LCD, the viewfinder is a better solution.
HDMI and multi-USB on the right side, it uses the X-size battery and standard size SD cards. You'll want an SDHC card rated UHS 3 to record video at the highest settings. And you'll want at least 1 extra battery, they don't last very long. Auto mode detects 10 different scene types, the green icon in the upper left corner, but also tripod, walk, or other movement, the second green icon below and slightly right. Use scene mode to select one of 13 settings including pet and gourmet. These are highly capable. For example, sports mode activates burst shooting, handheld twilight takes multiple exposures to reduce noise in dark settings. Program, aperture, and shutter priority and manual provide the expected functionality. In program, use the lens ring for other shutter aperture combinations. Aperture opens from f1.8 to f11, adjusted using the lens ring in A mode, f2.8 when zoomed in. Shutter, also adjusted using the lens ring, goes from 30 seconds to 1/32,000. The mechanical shutter shoots up to 1/2000, the electronic up to 1/32,000. Audio settings disable the standard shutter sound, although a quiet tap remains with the mechanical shutter. No alternate sounds or volume settings for shutter. In full manual, use the lens ring for aperture, the control dial for shutter. ISO, which I'm accessing from a custom button, ranges from 125 to 12.8. Press right to set the minimum and maximum. In auto ISO, set the minimum shutter speed using the menu. Let's go back to auto mode and press the bottom of the control dial to access this neat adjustment panel, a simple way to create a defocused background, adjust brightness, color, vividness, or select a picture effect. Enthusiasts may not need this, but it's certainly helpful for novices. Not all picture effects are available from this panel. To access them all, use the menu or assign them to the function menu. A bit gimmicky and a little processor intensive, these images always attract interest and attention. From effects like miniature to selective color, there are lots of options. Watercolor and illustration are my favorites. For less extreme adjustments, use the creative mode settings, adjustments to fine-tune color and contrast to suit specific scenes. I love the 3-stop ND filter, which I also added to the function menu, not just to use a movie shutter speed of 1/60th. ND also enables a larger aperture, even on sunny days, so backgrounds can be defocused and longer exposure times to blur waterfalls. According to Sony, this means shooting up to EV19. But keep your eye on the ND setting if you're going back and forth between video and stills. Auto ND isn't available in video, so I found it was often turned off after switching. And for a wider dynamic range, try the Auto HDR setting, providing up to 6 stops of additional range. Focus modes and zones seem to be consistent across Sony models: auto single, continuous, auto plus manual, full manual, then wide, single, 3 flexible spot sizes, expand flexible spot, which enlarges the focus area if flexible spot doesn't work, and lock on auto continuous. There's Face Detect for focus and exposure, Smile Detect for auto shutter. Eye Autofocus, available as a custom function for some buttons, is also a helpful assist. Don't overlook customizing face detection. Family and friends can be registered, and registered faces can be prioritized. Note that although all 3 faces are detected, Kim is given precedence with the white square. Whatever mode you're in, focus is fast. Just like Auto Dual Record in video, the Smile shutter takes photos whenever it sees a smile. In addition to normal, there are slight and big smile settings. Drive modes include a self-timer with 2, 5, or 10-second delays and 1, 3, or 5 exposures, and there are lots of bracket options. The same menu system now seems standard across all Sony models, so for me, it's more familiar than intuitive. The customizable function menu remains the easiest way to adjust settings while shooting. Error messages provide clues to the restrictions and exclusions, but are sometimes so generic as to be useless. I really wish Sony engineers would use some of their ingenuity to resolve the limitations. Here's an example. While shooting with picture effects on, change from JPEG to RAW. No warning, but picture effects are automatically disabled. But try the other. Turning on picture effects, which you'd think would reset from RAW to JPEG, gives a warning instead of making the switch. More of the former, please. I should have turned wheel lock on before handing Kim the camera when we went canoeing. The ISO accidentally set to 12.8. Activate the lock on the menu and then hold the function button until... press again to unlock. What this accident did illustrate is that although 12,800 ISO is noisy, it's not bad. Display options include a level, but it's on a screen of its own, somewhat less useful. And is it annoying to mention Sony's excellent panorama mode one more time? It's still the best in class.
Now what?
Video recording is possible in P, A, S, M, and auto modes using the movie button. The movie button can be disabled, recording video only in movie mode. Movie mode has 4 settings: auto or program and aperture priority, although I'd recommend shutter or manual so you can keep the shutter at 1/60th. Video recording modes include 120 frame in HD at 100 megabits, also useful for slow-mo playback, although like 4K, record time is limited to 5 minutes. I've held off mentioning digital zoom. It's not a feature I would use for stills, but it can be useful for video, as this shot of a hummingbird feeder illustrates. The zoom lever always works, but watch the lower right. Sometimes the lens ring controls the zoom as well. If you turn on the full digital zoom capability, the screen display shows when you leave optical zoom, C for clear zoom, D for digital, and there are 2 zoom speeds, normal and fast. There's only one stabilization selection in 4K. When shooting HD, two more steady shot options are available, active and intelligent active, which worked well for Kim's handheld shooting in a canoe. Video shooters appreciate peaking focus assist and zebra to judge exposure values. This is most useful set to 70, which I use as the guide for exposing white skin. Then I use the histogram for overall exposure. The RX100M4 includes the same Pro-type video features found on Sony's full-frame A7 series cameras. Picture profiles including the highly regarded S-Log2, timecode, clean HDMI out for external monitoring and recording. Yes, you can output 4K on HDMI to record on an Atomos Shogun, and use the camera's video record button to stop and start any Atomos recorder. Both 24p and 60p outputs are available for HDMI. Incidentally, switching to 4K video also switches the HDMI output. They can't be managed independently. Let me back up slightly. All of these still creative styles like black and white can be used for video. Although some are dimmed out and not available in movie mode, most picture effects, like retro, can be used for video. But the big deal here are the picture profiles. 7 presets, but a nearly infinitely adjustable set of parameters to control the sensor's response to light and color. The presets are straightforward, corresponding to Sony recommendations for video and stills, ITU standards, cinema emulations, as well as more advanced settings. And while most can be used as is, some are designed to be used in conjunction with video post-processing applications to make the contrast, brightness, and color adjustments to fully exploit the recording. Sony's S-Log2 gamma setting, enabled in PP7, is particularly interesting to professionals, who will use this setting to record scenes that look flat and dull, but when the appropriate color grading is applied in post, provide a particularly cinematic look. Selecting S-Log2 resets the ISO to 1600, so that ND filter is very handy here, but if you're already using the ND, as I was on this sunny day in Ottawa. In addition to the presets, there are a barrel full of additional adjustments to be tweaked, which are primarily found in the video engineer's vocabulary. Sony provides a website that gives a basic level of understanding. And although there's great power and control here, it is not trivial. Make, process, and evaluate test recordings before you make these adjustments to one-time events. The one missing feature? It's not possible to save or retrieve profiles with a memory card to copy the settings between two cameras, as it is on other models. In video mode, only continuous autofocus and manual focus are available, and continuous is sometimes stumped, as it was this evening in Charlottetown. Even with peaking on, the only assist available for video, I found accurate manual focus difficult with either the viewfinder or the LCD. The Model 4 is also somewhat deficient in audio. No external mic input, no interface chute for a shotgun mic. Audio level has 2 settings, normal and low. For ambient sounds, quality is reasonable. Sony has fewer playback features than most, but I did have some fun playing with Beauty Effect, which makes adjustments to portraits. I'd love to be able to do this on a better monitor or a TV, but the feature is disabled when HDMI is connected, and that's unfortunate. Change skin tone, smooth skin, remove shine, widen eyes, and brighten teeth. When you've made the adjustments, you can compare the before and after and save a new version of the photo. This is nice, but it would be really cool if you could use all of the picture effects to saved images. Might be good as an app. If you've been wondering about the little circle C in the top center of the screen, it indicates that copyright information is being saved to the EXIF data. NFC and Wi-Fi enable easy connection to a smartphone to transfer images or shoot using remote control. Sony's downloadable Play Memories apps add all kinds of interesting capabilities. I've been using these for so long that they feel like old hat, but it's worth underlining that Sony is trailblazing here. Apps are free or inexpensive, updated regularly, and add powerful, interesting, and fun features. I shot a sunset using the Time-Lapse app and the night sky using the Star Trails app. Both record for an hour and the camera creates the movie for playback.
Although interesting and useful, the limitations of the new features may be frustrating. In each generation of the RX100 I found lots to like, and this is no exception. But remember that the previous models are all still available at lower price points and offer only marginally less quality and functionality